Welcome back to the Archin Podcast, your home for edutainment in Archway, Cosmos, and the greater Web3. Have you heard of the Mango Markets exploit? Through price manipulation, Abraham Eisenberg was able to siphon $110 million worth of assets in what wasn't a hack, but rather an Oracle attack. While the idea of decentralized and untamperable oracles through Web3 is nice, improper implementation is very dangerous. Today I'm joined by Adam Wozniak, or Woz, the co-founder of Ojo. Woz will explain how Ojo uses historical pricing indexes to protect protocols from Oracle attacks and, as a sovereign Cosmos chain, can scale and integrate with everyone. Enjoy.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Phi Labs or the Archway Protocol. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only.
Welcome back to the Archin Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Weissman, joined with Adam Wozniak, or Woz, co-founder of Ojo, the new Oracle solution in Cosmos. Woz, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, good to be here. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about all the things that Ojo is doing.
Yeah, so part of the show is we're trying to learn more about the creators that are building this next wave of the Cosmos ecosystem. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, so I come from sort of a fintech background. I was one of those early college dropouts who, started working as an intern when I was 13 at the tech store down the street. Went to college for a year and I was already working at a few fintech startups. And then I just kind of realized, hey, I'm already getting paid for this stuff. I kind of got bigger aspirations than this. So after that, I worked at Fidelity. I was one of their directors of software, cloud, web, all that fun stuff. And then, I came over to the Cosmos, and it's been an interesting journey ever since.
Now, from Fidelity and working in fintech, did you go straight into Cosmos, or what was your intro to crypto looking like?
Yeah, I went straight in. I always had an interest in crypto. Obviously, I think everybody who knows how to play around with a computer has made an ERC20 or something of that sort before and just messed around. But the main thing that stuck out to me was I saw a lot of the issues in the current financial system working at a very high level, right? When you're working on fintech that supports transactions for millions of dollars and you're having to deal with 30-day delays on certain types of payments and auditing and all this crazy stuff that's going on, you kind of ask, could this be better? So I got a recruiting email from the guys at Umee, and the interviews went pretty well. Everybody seemed like they had their head on straight, and so I kind of just dove in and took it from there.
Dude, that's awesome. So tell me about Umee. I've been looking over the website. I've checked that out a little bit, but you can do lending on Cosmos and on Ethereum?
Yes, yeah. Umee's a cross-chain lending protocol founded by Brent. And it's pretty cool. It's Cosmos native, built with the SDK, has an Ethereum side of it as well, using the Gravity Bridge. But we specialize in borrowing and lending for IBC-enabled assets. So we're very Cosmos focused. We actually just yesterday finalized our release of borrowing and lending liquid staking assets from Stride, which is a huge deal, which I keep talking about to everybody. But it's been really awesome to see it grow over the past about a year and a half, I'd say.
That's awesome. We just had someone from Stride on our podcast, and it was a good conversation. One thing he was mentioning, though, was with these auto-compounding staking derivatives, how do you process, I guess this is a little bit early before we get into Ojo being an oracle, but how do you take care of the issue of the derivative itself depegging from the underlying value of it and, price depeg of that nature?
Yeah, so essentially, we're a different type of oracle in that we don't trust anything, any natural mechanism, mint module, whether that's a ratio of atom to ST atom or whatever, and we only take the actual volume into consideration. ST atom and ST Osmo are very unique circumstances in that the most of their volume, almost 100% of their volume, is on osmosis, and that's a DEX, which is there's no API to get us information for that DEX. So what did we do? We planted our flag a little bit. We built a custom indexer for our validators to query against, which takes volume, time, information, and price into consideration to determine the correct price for these assets. So if it ever does depeg, we'll know about it while it's happening.
That is super cool. I do a lot of stuff in DeFi as well, and oracles are incredibly important. I've been warning people about oracle attacks. People are worried about flash loans and other things, but oracle attacks are a real big deal. Do you want to go into a little bit of the specs of why oracles are so risky and so needed, or what they even do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the core concept of the oracle problem is external data is naturally extrinsic to blockchains. And that sounds crazy, but what it essentially means is when you're reaching consensus with a bunch of separated entities, they all have to agree upon a certain set of data. And you need to do that by averaging out, finding the median of what all these people think. And essentially those entities have to vote on what the price of assets are. So that's one of the biggest difficulties in blockchain. Why it's such a sensitive issue is we have these DeFi products, especially lending protocols like Umee, that are coming out where the price of an asset can determine whether or not you get liquidated in your position. It can determine how much you can borrow. It really depends on the overall health of the market, what's going to happen to your tokens. So you need to have very fast oracles, and you also need to have very smart oracles. What we saw recently with the Mango Markets hack, which I think his name's Avram, he went through and did that and exposed himself. What we saw was, manipulating a low market cap asset in order to, just profit off of these lending protocols. And he stole millions and millions of dollars from people, from just independent users. And he could do it with, $1 million of volume trading, right? It's very easy to do when you don't have a safety net. So our purpose developing this Oracle solution at Umee was originally for the safety of the lending protocol itself. And now we've kind of solved for the lowest common denominator. We, have already built a product that needs to be as safe as it can be. And now we want to bring this to the rest of the cosmos.
That's awesome. You're absolutely right, especially with low liquid assets. It's a huge issue using them as collateral in any way, shape, or form, because you can pump the price of the asset up to take out a larger loan before you collapse it. There's a lot of risk. And then if there's added latency with the oracles, you can trade on information you have before it's processed by validators. And so these solutions are imperative. I'm glad a capable team's working on it. Can you tell us a little bit about the Ojo team as well as the Umee team and how close you guys are connected?
Yeah, so Ojo is a project is being incubated right now at Umee. So I work, directly with everybody there. We have dedicated engineers working on Ojo, as well as shared resources on the front end, business development, marketing side, which has been a really awesome experience because it's allowed us to stay very lean without raising funds very early, and it's allowed us to kind of put our heads down and focus on building the best Oracle product for the long term. So we also work on supporting the Oracle that's currently in use on the Umee chain, and eventually we will deprecate that in favor of the Ojo Oracle.
Okay. Can you walk us through the difference? So the current one's Orion, right? And Ojo's the new version?
Yeah. So we kind of just called our Oracle Orion. It was just kind of a nickname. And then we eventually spun it out into a separate entity that we've called the Ojo Network. So the Orion Oracle on the Umee side right now has similar feature sets. The main differentiator between the two is going to be essentially cross-chain communication, where any chain who has smart contracts or IBC queries enabled will be able to take Ojo information and bring it onto their chain without their validators having to vote on prices.
Nice. Walk me through. So it's going to be like permissionless. Anybody can integrate it. They don't even need you guys to do it?
Well, so there's a few stages, right? The first is permissioned, in that we're going to be deploying smart contracts to a lot of different networks. Right now, our testnet's actually already on the secret network testnet as well as the Juno testnet, which has been, awesome to see it already start to be integrated even before we're going through the audit stage. And then, so once we deploy all of these initial contracts, we're going to be relaying that information to these other chains in-house. And then eventually we're going to migrate to a permissionless solution where anyone can deploy a cross-chain contract onto their chain as long as they're paying for the Ojo services to the validators.
I love when you bring up monetization. I'm obviously I'm the tokenomics lead for Phi Labs, and that's really my bread and butter. So what does it look like to pay for that coverage? Like, how do you guys monetize?
Yeah, so right now we're kind of in the process of modeling that, right? Because you have to take into account the validator cost. How much does it actually cost to run a node? How many validators can we have in the active set that continue to be profitable? And then we also want to take into account eventually coming off of the inflationary tokenomics. So how much does someone have to pay this validator set in order for the validator to still be profitable and not have inflation be their main source of income? Because inflation in Cosmos is essentially just a punishment for people who don't stake, right? So how do we do that effectively and create the project to be successful and trustless long term? Because if we do that correctly, then there doesn't actually need to be an Ojo foundation. There can just be a DAO or independent developers who write integrations and pay validators for their services because the network's already set it up. So the actual pricing information, we're still figuring out, but you should be able to pay our smart contracts or the Ojo node itself in Ojo tokens and maybe even the other tokens on the receiving chain.
Brilliant. You mentioned being on the Secret and Juno testnets already. Now, as you deploy in other contracts, when the applications are using you guys, do they query them on their native chain or do they have to do IBC queries first? And also, does it add latency?
Gotcha. Yeah. So right now, the way that we're setting up these deployments are, if you're another Cosmosm contract on that chain, you can just query the chain itself, right? Your source chain. You don't have to reach out because that information is already being relayed to this deployed contract on Secret or on Juno, which is pretty nice because it doesn't really introduce much latency. The latency that we totally have for Ojo is 30 seconds for any pricing information. The reason for that is it takes 15 seconds for validators to vote within a 5-block window and essentially do a pre-vote, which says, I'm definitely going to vote on what I say I am, and then the actual vote itself, which has the pricing information. And I can go into the consensus stuff all I want. But 30 seconds, and then that information is immediately relayed to the consumer chain. The only delay there is how fast blocks are created by the consumer chain. So you have an additional 6 seconds for the transaction to be accepted and the block to be created.
Awesome. We've talked to quite a few Oracle solutions. We definitely want to use groups that are in-house and like what you guys are adding with the historical pricing data adding in, which is really cool, which we'll get into in a little bit. But one of the things we noticed in going over like internal calculators with Oracle operators is that oracles are queried really, really often, like talking millions of times per month. And built out on Archway, you get paid pretty well for every single one of them. Like you get a lot of Archway rewards. So as you guys are looking to build out, I'm very connected obviously to a lot of the dApps building out on Archway, but it is a very nice way to sustainably monetize Ojo. So looking forward to working with you guys there.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Archway is definitely one of the chains we're really excited to launch in the near future and sort of see all the dApps come out of it and use our safe pricing data to create good, wholesome DeFi products.
Yeah, absolutely. And I alluded a little bit here to this historical data, and I'm using historical ending with like ACLE, where it's the Oracle with pricing data. What does that unlock that's not currently available with something like Band or Chainlink? And how can this develop over time?
Yeah, so historical is the first ever smart Oracle solution. That's kind of how we say it. Right. So with the data that historical provides about the past pricing data for our given assets, your DeFi product will be able to ascertain whether or not the market is being artificially manipulated. So in the case of the Mango Markets hack, what Mango could have done is use this historical data to say, okay, I understand that this person is pumping the price, so I'm going to actually limit the amount that they can borrow based on the historical data, not on the spot price. And Umee uses it in this way in order to support small cap, like liquid staking assets in a safe way. And also that's why we can support our native token Umee on the chain, because Mango Markets, their fallout was because of the Mango token. So it's been a lot of fun to build. It's all I've been focusing on for like the past 4 months. And I'm really happy to see it be used in production today.
Yeah, man. If you've got that fire, if you've got that idea that can genuinely make the world a better place, that can genuinely make a difference, it's all you got to pursue. So I'm glad that you're devoting everything to it and that you're building this out. This is absolutely huge for what groups are able to do. I like it.
Yeah.
For integration purposes, how easy are they to integrate? You mentioned being permissioned early on. How big is your validator set? And have you thought about like maybe centralizing it or lowering it for lower latency, or like, do you have any plans of different versions of validating sets?
Yeah. So I'm of the opinion that I would rather have a decentralized validator set rather than extremely low latency, because what you see with a lot of these centralized Oracle platforms is they're very slow. If you actually look at Chainlink's base layer data, sometimes it's 30 minutes behind, which is an eternity in crypto. I'm sure you understand. And that's why they don't support these smaller assets. But at the same time, we don't want to have a centralized validator set where we have top 10 people setting pricing information for everybody. So how do you balance that, right? In order to do that, we have a punishment system for validators that vote outside of the standard deviation of the median every 5-10 blocks for these prices. So their tokens are at stake, essentially. We're planning on having probably 50 to 100 validators in the active set, which means, again, at 6-second block time, we're looking at 30 seconds latency of prices, which is super exciting. The integration side of that means all you have to do when we have a smart contract deployed to your network is create a smart contract that queries that other smart contract. It's very simple, which is pretty awesome, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, listeners, if you didn't know this, we should probably break it down for you, but a lot of people are unaware that block times, especially in Cosmos, aren't like a target. They're kind of, they're what happened based on how you have the infrastructure set up. And so somebody like Say can come in and be like, hey, we've got 1 second block times. And while that sounds awesome and that is really cool for a user experience, it also means that they have all their validators, like, which they have very few validators. They have them running in one centralized location and all connected via like AWS. So if that ever goes down, the entire network goes down. So while you can brag about low latency, you can brag about speed, it's also not decentralized and really, really scary. So you do have to kind of figure out where your vision aligns, where your community aligns. And I think you're walking a really good mix. 30 seconds is not bad.
Yeah, it's there are configurations which allow for very short block times and not such a centralized set, but really we're more concerned about having the most accurate pricing data, and the best way to do that is to have a set of decentralized validators who are incentivized to vote in the close to the same manner.
Awesome. Then how can people get involved in the Ojo community, and what would you have them do if they got one takeaway from this episode?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd love if some people did was check out our GitHub repos. We've got a lot of integrations with different APIs, and we have other people working on integrating with APIs on the Kujira side. We have Juno has built a couple integrations. So if you have an API that has pricing data that you want over at Ojo, it's all open source. So check it out. If you're just a community member and you're not writing code, check out our Discord. Hang out there. We're gonna have a test net. We have a test net going, but we're gonna have external validators join. We're gonna have a lot of drama with people missing votes, and it's gonna be super exciting to watch. So yeah. Check out our Discord, check out our website, and follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff.
Love it. We got all those links here in the episode description. And when are you upgrading from Orion to Ojo Mainnet? Yeah,
so Ojo's Mainnet will probably launch Q2 of this year, is what we're going through. Right now we're going through our audit with runtime verification. We just want to make sure we batten down all the hatches. We're super secure, because if we get this infrastructure wrong, it could affect all of the Cosmos. So, I mean, it's a pretty heavy weight to bear. And I've told my team, look, we have a timeline, and I'd love for us to meet that, but I'd rather ship a good product, right? Good, cheap, fast, pick two. So
100%. You only get one first impression, but most importantly, you can't get the liquidity back after it's siphoned out through mega markets.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of the whole deal that we've been dealing with here. But it's nerve wracking, but it's super super exciting to be working on something so cutting edge and helpful for the cosmos as a whole.
Yeah, well, I love your approach. Everybody follow them on Twitter, join their Discord, and how can they reach you directly if they love this interview and they want to talk to you more about it?
Yeah, I mean, my DMs are open on Twitter. That's a good way to go through it. I'm at WazChain. Just follow me, send me a message, and ask any questions you have about Ojo, because I love talking about it. So yeah.
Awesome. Adam, thank you so much for joining on the show, bud, and looking forward to Ojo's lunch. Looking forward to working with you guys.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me. Have a good one.